As devs of a very famous and successful game, they have the responsibility to know how much their follow up is eagerly anticipated, and they should be expecting that its release will overshadow other releases in the indie space. Therefore, they should have, I don't know, maybe announced today in June at least. Yeah, no. So, Silksong Hollow Knight released 3 days or I think 4 days ago and immediately amassed a staggering 500,000 players and now is currently sitting at 200,000 players. So, the game obviously has been met with high regard. Everyone is completely stoked about how the sequel was able to match up even better the aspects of certain things concerning the first game. But not everyone seems to be on that same rising panel of supporting the game, which, by the way, even pirates do not even want to pirate the freaking game. They literally are banning, they're literally discussing with themselves that, hey, let's not touch Silksong, let's leave this game this time and pirate something else. But other companies, and by other companies I mean the competition, have since been complaining constantly about how Silksong released at a time that became or has proven to be extremely, hurtful to their own releases and their own franchises. According to them, they're stating that Silksong should have at least been announced in a much more reasonable fashion so that they could have been able to prepare themselves to be able to make sure that any single type of release or the time that they were going to release their game, they were going to be able to fit it in this type of window that can meet a required area of trying to meet the necessary player count on their own part so that Silksong doesn't take all of that attention away from them. Now, Team Cherry released Silksong. I'm not sure when because I'm only knowing of Silksong now due to how much attention it's currently getting. And from what I have seen and from the research that I have done, it's very clear that the game was something regardless of whether or not they announced it at June or May or March or August. It doesn't even freaking matter. There were people on standby waiting for this game to release, waiting for Silksong Hollow Knight to come out so that they can explore what the sequel is. To be able to amass a 500,000 player count, mind you, this is 500,000, a 500,000 player count in just the first day of your release is insane. To be able to crash Steam and the PlayStation Store is insane. That just shows the amount of expectancy. It doesn't really matter when the game was going to drop. This game was going to skyrocket regardless. And I feel like that's one of the many things that the companies, the opposition, and also the competition alongside Team Cherry do not understand. As someone once described it where I saw on Twitter, Team Cherry is basically the GTA of indie games, right? The Rockstar of indie games. Hollow Knight is the GTA of indie games. People are stoked and were stoked for this game and still are. To be able to still keep a 200,000 player count is crazy, and many people have even finished the game. And these people are still coming back to keep playing it. They're still coming back to give their thoughts on it. And unfortunately, the opposition and every other person who seems to be part of the indie developing space seems to have a problem with how the game was released. Now, personally, I won't even lie. I don't think this is even about when they chose to release the game or giving or announcing a date or whatnot. I feel like it's just simply based on the power Team Cherry already has under their belt after releasing Silksong the first time. You see, what the opposition and what the other indie game developers do not understand is that this isn't a matter of a date being announced. This isn't a matter of a heads up being given. It's not a matter of them saying, hey, this is when we're going to release the game, that is going to determine whether or not their game gets the kind of attention Silksong got. It's just simply about the fact that Team Cherry are already moving themselves to an entirely different level than other indie game developers. Now, I'm not saying it's in a way that indie game developers, aside from Team Cherry, don't also have something that they can bring to the table, which can probably even match Silksong, maybe not beat it, but definitely be able to match up to the kind of content and quality that Silksong does possess. But at the same time, let's not make it seem like the reason why every other game shifting their dates and not being able to release their game at the appointed period of time is just simply because of the fact that Silksong didn't announce a date. Here's the thing: even if Silksong was to announce a date and some other game developers shifted it to that time or shifted it to a different time aside from when Silksong was going to, be released, we can't deny the fact that Silksong would have held its player base for a very long time. And if other games were even released that had a similar type of style to Silksong, it's only going to be a matter of time or a matter of months before people start comparing those games to Silksong and constantly either ridiculing those games or telling those game developers that, hey, these are the areas you can better at, while constantly comparing their own art, comparing their own video games to Silksong itself. So I don't really know. I just feel like it's just a whole lot of baloney. Honestly, it doesn't really sound like something that is the fault of Team Cherry, but just rather the fault of the fact that they have they've developed their own base. They've created something big, something huge, something magnificent. And I feel like other indie game developers, instead of complaining about this, should just try to be able to bring quality to the table. This should serve as a lesson, not just to even other indie developers, but also AAA developers as well, because this is just showing again and again that people will constantly choose quality over anything else. It doesn't matter whether your company has a big name. It doesn't matter if you're Rockstar. It doesn't matter if you're Activision. It doesn't matter if you're EA. As long as you keep giving us scrap to play, we're only going to keep pushing ourselves away from the product that you sell to us, because it's constantly showing that you do not care about the players. You only care about how much money you put into your pocket. Silksong is just one of the many that will continuously prove as evidences to show that video games aren't dead yet. The only problem is the people making the video games. And I think instead of indie developers who are constantly getting pissed off right now due to the fact that, Silksong is getting all this attention and rave, they should instead look into their own development as well. Where can they improve? How can they stylize their games to be able to ensure that they meet what the players require from video games as of this day and age? How can they stand out? What would they do now that they have seen the way Silksong has come out and caused an entire uproar? Are they going to go back to the drawing board and do something new, implement new strategies, develop something revolutionary or innovative in their own video game that's coming out, or basically change something, do more? The fact is, in as much as yes, Silksong has and is still going to probably be a threat going forward for other indie game developers, it can also serve as a means of being able to look at the competition and do something better. You have a much more higher standard now on your hands, but at the same time, you have a bigger advantage because Silksong has been released. You've seen the reception. Now it's up to you to decide what are you going to do with that reception and how are you going to implement what people have said they liked in your own game as well. Not to copy the idea, no, but maybe to, in your own way, revolutionize it, make it bigger, make it better, make it something that people will talk about for years to come.